Hello. Today I'm going to talk about stropping in general, and my quest on trying to learn how to strop and have this be a part of my knife sharpening philosophy. So I'll be showing some of these, but I'm not really doing a product review. This is going to be more of kind of a historical kind of story time for me about me and stropping and how it relates to me and what I've learned and my experiences with it along the way and my kind of journey with it, I guess. So it may be kind of boring. It's probably not going to be too instructional. There may be some little tidbits for some people to learn or get something from, but if this doesn't interest you, I totally understand.
So just to give you a brief background, I became a major knife nut in about 1997. And I had developed a really basic sharpening system back then, based on just what I was taught by my brother, to basically set my apex freehand with some kind of diamond, extra coarse diamond stone or plate, similar to this one. And then I would use a Spyderco sharp maker to kind of use a finer ceramic grit thing to kind of set a micro bevel, and that's just kind of what I would use for many years. And actually that's what I did for pretty much 20 years or even more maybe. And sometimes I would see or hear these random things about people stropping. From the late 90s until quite a ways into the early 2000s, you really didn't hear people talk about stropping. My brother and I were on blade forums and people didn't bring this up very much. It's kind of something you didn't hear about. I would see references to it. You know, there's the movie City Slickers where Curly or whatever Jack Palance's character's name is pulls out his knife and he's stropping on his belt or whatever. But I kind of thought stropping was sort of this weird myth, and I definitely didn't have any place for it in my knife life.
Even by about 2021, I don't think there was a lot of information about stropping on YouTube.
There was probably some, but it wasn't nearly like it is now. Now, it's all everybody talks about. But I know this because I kind of decided I wanted to figure this out. I think I saw some video where somebody was making reference to it, and so I wanted to try it out. So I kind of went on a quest to get a strop, and I couldn't even find one. So I have two local knife dealers here. I work with one a lot, and I knew he didn't have them. So I went to the other knife dealer, and I walked in there to their shop, and I said, "Hey, do you guys sell strops?" And they said, "No." And I'm like, okay. So I finally found several on Amazon. I had no idea what I was specifically looking for, but I got one. It wasn't any of these. It was similar though, similar in build and size. The leather quality was pretty bad though on the one I got. So it came to me, and it came with some crayon kind of compound. Similar to this. It wasn't this. This is a huge piece. The piece I got with that would have been like that big. Anyway, I got this strop and I tried to use it and it didn't do anything. It didn't work. If I had a knife that was nearly sharp, it wouldn't help it get any sharper. If I had a knife that was already sharp, it would make it worse. So whatever, I got kind of frustrated. So I started to try to find more information on YouTube about how to strop, how to use this strop and so on. And it was really hard. There was very little information. And if there was, I couldn't find it. And so I was kind of at a loss.
There was some information, but at this point I was kind of stuck watching the same 2 or 3 people I'd already seen, but I needed to know what I was doing wrong.
At this time, I also had this Work Sharp guided field sharpener, which comes with a teeny little strop on here. And I had tried using this thing a lot, and it really didn't work at all for me. At this time, my friend, who's also interested in knives, also started kind of becoming interested in stropping. And he had an old piece of leather that was from a how to make moccasins kit that he had since he was a kid. So he just like opened this random box he had sitting around. It had this hunk of leather in it that he'd never used. He pulled that leather out. He just draped it over this piece of wood that he had, just a random piece of wood, but it's about this thick. He just draped it over there, would pull it tight, and he just started kind of stropping on this naked, no compound, just this naked piece of leather. He just kind of started stropping on it. And I don't remember exactly how this went for him, but as I remember it, it didn't really work right away. But after a while, he started having some luck with it. But it kind of started working for him. And I couldn't figure it out. And I would ask him over and over, and he would just demonstrate what he was doing. He would tell me how to do it the way he's doing it, and it just would not work for me. So this is how this went for me. I also think I'd learned that maybe I shouldn't be using this kind of compound. I don't know if it was the compound I was using. So again, I went on a quest to try to find some stropping compound. And again, I went to my knife dealer guy, the second one. The first one I knew wouldn't have it. And I said, do you guys have any stropping compound? And they said, no. And I said, do you know where I would even go to find some, to buy some? And they said, yeah, go to a hardware store. So I went to several hardware stores, the big name ones, Lowe's, Home Depot, and then Ace Hardware, whatever random hardware store I could find. I'm asking everybody I can find it, do you guys have any knife stropping compound? And they're like, no, no, no. Now, in retrospect, if I would have just asked them if they had polishing compound or polishing rouge or something like that, they might have had it. But anyway, what I was asking for, I couldn't find. I couldn't find it anywhere. So I thought my problem was with my strop. The leather wasn't great. At some point, I ended up finally finding some Gendy diamond compound emulsion. And this stuff's expensive. It was like 72 bucks. I bought some. It came to me. I just took a little bit and rubbed it on this Work Sharp guided field sharpener strop. And I rubbed my knife on there the way I thought I should, whatever, did a few things. And I noticed that the leather felt a little different. The compound interacted with the leather a little differently. It's very wet and moist and whatever. So, you know, it made the leather feel a different way. And I could feel my knife doing something kind of differently than what I'd ever thought before. And I checked my edge, and my edge seemed different. It actually seemed sharper. So I'm like, holy crap, that worked. So at this point, I think it's all about the compound. Anyway, that's the first time I ever had any luck, that I was ever able to get any kind of positive result from stropping. So then I try to buy another strop. So I go to Amazon, and by now, months had passed, and now Amazon has more and more strops available for purchase. So it's pretty easy to find them. I find one and I purchase it. It was a Hutzel's. I buy this Hutzel's one. Again, it comes with some compound. I cannot get this thing to work. So at this point, my friend is having quite a bit of success stropping with his naked piece of leather that he's been using for a long time. He can get his knives to somehow improve on this naked piece of leather that he just has draped over a piece of wood. At this point, I'm starting to find some more videos about how to strop. And some of them say, hold the angle slightly lower, this way, than what you sharpened at. Some of them say, hold the angle just slightly, one little tiny noticeable increment higher than what you sharpened at. And some of them say, hold it just dead level even to what you sharpened at. And some people are doing it this way, tip to heel. Some people are doing it this way, heel to tip. And I tried it all. I could not figure it out. I couldn't get this to work for me. I was getting very frustrated. And I'd go to my friend and I'd be like, how are you doing this? And finally he said, I learned that he was using a lot of pressure. He pushes very hard. And even now to this day, when he strops, he pushes very hard and he uses a lot of pressure, which I don't, by the way, now. He said, I think you need to break your strop in. And I think once you use it for a long time, it starts to get kind of black. This is a piece of wood, but when you strop, you'll get little tiny pieces of metal filings embedded into the strop and it turns it dark. He said, I think you need to break it in, and when it starts getting really dark, I think that's when it'll start working for you. So I'm like, okay. I would try even using his strop that was already broken in, and I couldn't get it to work. Anyway, I got really frustrated, and this went on and on and on for a very long time. I did, however, somehow have some luck with this thing. So if I thought I needed to strop, I would go to this, and this one would work for me. So some time passes, and I bought an entry level crappy set of Amazon type water stones. So this is not that particular water stone, but it was very similar to this one. So I started using these water stones, which I had never used before. I'd never used soaking type water stones, but I started doing it. And when I was done going through the grip progression, my knife seemed like it was getting sharper, but it wouldn't shave. That set, by the way, came with one of these dumb little belt things. I've never been able to get these to work. Never, I have no idea. Even now I can't get these to work. So I went through my grit progression. The knife seemed like it was getting sharper, but when I was finally done with the last grit, my knife wouldn't shave my arm hair, which was really weird because since 1997, I've been able to sharpen knives and get them to shave my arm hair very well. But these stones seemed like they were sharpening my knife, but my knife just wouldn't shave arm hair. I passed my knife along the strop a few times. I probably did it this way. Probably did it heel to tip. So I did it this way. Check my knife. And holy crap, my knife was sharp. It was weird. It was amazing. So somehow that experience of me using the strop off these crappy water stones that couldn't even really get my knife shaving sharp on their own, but somehow the strop unlocked the key to these crappy water stones actually being really useful and successful, and it gave me a really great edge. For some reason, after that time, I could kind of start to begin to feel what I thought the knife was supposed to be doing against the leather. I could feel the contact that was being made with the burr or the apex. And I kind of started finally being able to figure this out, but I wasn't consistent at it. I hadn't totally discovered this yet. So off the water stone's edge, I was able to strop. But I would just sharpen my knives like regular, and I would run them on the strop, and they would make my knife feel duller. I would get my knives close to sharp off other systems that I'd used before, and I would try to strop, and it just wouldn't improve them at all. So I continued doing this for quite a while. I continued buying more strops. I kept thinking it was the leather, kept thinking it was the compound. I finally got the Gendy compound to work on one or two strops that I had, one of which was this Sharpal one that I use quite frequently nowadays. I started to be able to figure this out, and I started to be able to get it to work. So it took me a lot of time, but I finally got there. So I had these little tiny incremental steps. I can't actually remember all of them. This was the first step. When I first put diamond emulsion compound on this, and I had this experience where I actually got my knife sharper, and I actually could feel like this particular strop was working for me, that was key number one. The problem is this strop's very small. And the problem is I wanted to be able to figure this out and use other strops. Let's see if I could figure this stropping thing out. The next key moment was off these water stones. For some reason, these made it so I could strop, get my knife sharp, but just doing it on my own, I kind of couldn't. But as I kept practicing and as I kept messing with it and as I kept doing different things with different strops and different knives and different whatever, I kind of figured out what angle I needed to hold it at, how much pressure I needed to use, and so on. And where I have finally landed with this is I do have to have a certain kind of leather. It has to be hard and firm. It can be kind of soft, like suede, but not too soft, not too squishy. If it is fuzzy, it still has to be quite hard. I do have to have diamond emulsion. I have not been able to figure out any crayon wax type based compound except for the Bark River one. Those do work, and they work very well. But I have got to a point where I can strop. I know how to do it. I know what I'm doing with it, at least for me in my world, what works for me. And what that is, again, is I need to hold the angle at exactly the angle I sharpened at, or close to it as I can assimilate. I don't want to go one notch higher. I don't want to go one notch lower. If I go at all higher, doesn't work for me. If I go at all lower, doesn't work for me. I use light pressure to medium pressure, never higher than medium pressure for me. My friend pushes hard. He pushes hard. I do not use anything close to that amount of pressure. So I'm using barely just enough pressure to keep the knife flat and be able to control my push and my motion. I really don't use much other pressure than that, with a few exceptions. If I think I still have a straggling burr and I'm trying to remove my burr at all in any way, then I will use slightly more pressure. If I can feel the burr kind of dragging, I'll use slightly more pressure, but I'm almost always using, on a pressure scale of 5 is a lot of pressure, 2, maybe 2.5, maybe rarely 3, but never more than that. Usually I'm using about 2, pressure of 2, or even maybe 1 sometimes, very light pressure. And I strop as little as possible, as few strokes as possible, which for me is usually between 3 to 5 strokes per side, 10 total strokes maybe. If I start doing more than that, I don't think I ever get a result that I like. So that's just kind of me. That's where I'm at. I've tried doing different things. Now there's a lot of information about stropping out there. So we have learned a lot. There's a lot of information that is good. So I do believe that the direction you strop matters. I do believe that if you sharpen in such a way that you think your little micro teeth are facing this way, and for me, micro teeth, micro serrations, a toothy edge is very important, and I do not want to strop those off. It's very important. I would rather not strop at all than strop off my teeth and polish out or make my edge slick or glassy or polished when I really want it to have some teeth to it. So I do believe that if my teeth are facing this way, then I need to strop tip to heel. But when I go to this side, I have trouble finding the angle. Sometimes I can't feel it very well. If I can feel it, then I'll do a tip to heel one. But if I can't feel it, I'm just gonna go heel to tip. And I don't care if I'm scraping off half of my teeth. I think it's more important for me to find and hold my angle. I definitely can feel what I'm doing. I definitely have a system that I think works for me. I definitely do have success at stropping now. But I have found something that works for me, and this was very difficult for me to find something that works for me. So I might mix up a couple things. If you guys have suggestions of other things I should try, I will try it. But I've tried a lot of stuff and I can't get much to work other than what I'm kind of doing now. When it comes to a knife, let's say I have a knife that's really, really sharp and I use it for a small job, and a job just enough to get it just a little bit noticeably duller. If I go to strop it gently, it might make the edge slightly sharper, but it will never make the edge as sharp as it was for me as I got it to start. I can never strop back my knife and get it back to the sharpness level that it was. When I just carry my knives around in the world, I want them to be very sharp, and I have a kind of a standard for them. So let's just say they're really, really shaving sharp when I carry them around. If I use it just a tiny bit and it's starting to lose that shaviness and kind of starting to scrape arm hair a little bit. If I touch that up on stones or ceramics or something, I could get my knife back to super, super shaving sharp. If I try to touch it up on a strop or strop it back, it will get close, it will get sharper than scraping arm hair, and it'll get to where it's shaving arm hair, but it'll never get to where it's shaving it as good as I had it. And I can never strop back my knife and get any kind of toothiness to it. Rarely. I can't say never because I am starting to figure out how to do that somewhat. But it's hard for me to get my toothiness aggression back, regardless of what strop type I'm using. I use wood too sometimes, regardless of what kind of compound I'm using, regardless of the micron. I just have really bad results trying to strop my knife back. For me, my rule of thumb is that I have my knife super, super sharp. I use it. If I strop it back, I'm kind of just doing that only to test my ability and to try to learn and continue to learn how to unlock the secret of stropping. I would prefer to just put this on a stone that I know works and touch up my edge on a stone or ceramic and get it right back to where I want it to be, because if I strop it back, it won't be as sharp as I want it. If I use my knife to where it's even duller than that, so in my first scenario I said I have it super, super sharp, shaving sharp, I use it, it gets to where it's kind of scraping arm hair. If I use it beyond that to where it's barely scraping or even not quite scraping arm hair anymore, if I go to strop it, it will make it sharper. Kind of back to the same threshold that I described in the first scenario. Not quite shaving as well as I'd like, but close. So I can strop those back to the same level, but again, then the edge will be very polished feeling. I will almost always, not quite always, but most of the time, I will be able to run my finger along. I don't want to do it because this knife actually is kind of sharp. I'll be able to run my finger this way with little danger of cutting myself because it will be very slick, polished, glassy, whatever word you like. It will not have any, usually will not have very much toothiness or aggression. And I know other people have great luck at doing this. So I don't know. I have little to no luck stropping my knife back more than once. If I've already stropped it back once and I keep using that knife for something and then I try to strop it again, it's just like this diminishing downhill spiral where my edge just keeps getting glassier and polisheder and more rounded feeling. And I just don't like that. If I were in some kind of survival situation, I had used my knife and I somehow had my leather belt or something and I could strop it back on my leather belt, I would keep doing that as long as I had to. As long as it was working at all, I would obviously do that. But in the real world, where I have access to all my toys and tools, I want my knife to be really sharp and I want it to have the kind of edge that I like. So for me, stropping back and stropping back and stropping back is not a thing. I can do it one time, maybe two, but the edge that I'm getting is really not at the point that I would like, and I would rather just put it on a ceramic stone, a ceramic or a stone of some kind, and get it right back to where I like it. So that's kind of where I am with stropping and with strops in general. I think I am figuring it out. I do think my friend is correct, and I think there are some strops with some kind of compound that do work well or better when they have kind of started to break in and you start to get your black filings on there. But I know that those filings, I know what they are, and I know that they can't possibly be, they're contaminating the actual grit that you have in there. They're intermingling with these fancy little diamond particles that you pay a lot of money for, and they're interacting with in a way that it has to be counterproductive at some point. But I do kind of like the way they feel when they're broken in, as my friend says, and kind of grimy. So I don't know. I know that's probably not the best, but I do like to kind of experiment with that. So that's my story. I do believe that I know how to strop. I do consider myself a person that knows how to strop. I like that I have strops because I like using water stones, and strops do really increase the edge that you can get off water stones. For some reason, they really do. I like stropping. I'm interested in it. I like messing with them. I like playing with them. I strop very little. I do very few strokes. I use exact angle as I can. That's what I did at my sharpening angle. I use very little to light pressure in most cases. Sometimes I do increase the pressure, but I use as few strokes as possible. But just stropping to me is counterproductive, and it's kind of not a thing for me. So this is me. This is my experience. I have learned that there are about 10 million opinions on stropping, but I am starting to figure out what works for me. If you are a person who has been trying to learn how to strop and you've been like me and been having bad luck at it, keep trying different things. I think you want leather that's quite firm, quite hard. I think you probably are going to want diamond emulsions or CBN emulsions or something. Keep at it. You'll probably eventually figure something out that works for you. Don't get frustrated by all the information that's out there. I enjoy doing this the way that works for me. And if I had to do it the way my friend was doing it, I'd be going crazy because I can't get that way to work for me. I can't use that much pressure. I don't think that's not how I need to do it. So keep at it. Find your own system. Don't let somebody else tell you how you have to live your knife life. If you guys have any stories about your stropping journey, what you like to do, I'd love to hear it. I love talking about this stuff. I love hearing the stories. I love strops. I have a zillion of them. I'm really into this. So I'm not taking this. Please don't take this story as a stropping's evil, because it's not. It's awesome. And I love it. I just think that it's a tricky thing. And there's a lot of information out there, and not everything worked for me. So I had to find kind of my own system. And maybe there's somebody out there who has to find their own system too. So hopefully if you are out there, I hope you see this video, and I hope you stay at it and you figure out your own system. And I hope that system works for you. So thanks you guys for watching. Thanks for your support. I really appreciate your time.